All right, one thing I want to go over before you guys start gluing up an entire kitchen is make sure that the adhesive that you've got is going to match the material that you are going to be fabricating. So sometimes material will come in, it's not the exact shade that was on the color sample. Usually it's in a close range. And 99% of the time, the glue is going to match perfectly and you're not going to have any issues. The problem becomes is if it's that 1% where something is amiss and you have not tested to make sure, and you just go ahead and start laminating up all your edges and you get everything done and then you're cleaning it up and you realize, uh-oh, nothing matches. Now you got a huge problem on your hands. You've sliced up all that material, you've got the edges glued up, the glue is kicked and nothing matches and you've got lines on it. Now, if you're working with solid surface, you know that your seams need to be very tight, like they need to be extremely tight. And if your seams are extremely tight, you can use almost any glue color you want. It's not gonna really make that big of a difference. Now, obviously you wouldn't wanna use a black adhesive on a white material. You wanna try and get it as close as possible, but even when I was 15 years old and playing with scrap material at this shop and built this table, almost the whole thing is fabricated with glacier white glue. And as you can see, there's really not much white material in it, but as long as your seams are tight, you really can't tell. So with solid surface, you can get away with quite a bit as long as your seams are razor tight and you're pulling them off of a CNC, a Stribig, or a straight edge. Now, when it comes to granite and quartz, obviously there's a lot more leeway in what is an acceptable seam, right? I think if you look at the MIA standards, for some reason, I think it could be up to like a 1/16 of an inch. Now, I don't think that that would ever fly in a customer's home, at least none of the homes that I've ever worked on. But you do have a lot more leeway in the stone industry. The seams, there's a lot more variation on what is acceptable. However, like I say, if you're using the Big Dog, we're assuming you want the best of the best. That's why we make our adhesives the way we make them, is we know that you have demanding customers and they demand the best product quality possible. So here I have cut this on a saw. If you're looking at this seam is not perfectly closed. It's only closed really tight in one area, but the purpose here is to remind you guys, before you do anything, always test your adhesive to make sure it matches. So I have just grabbed this out of the scrap pile at the shop. I think it's a glacier white. It's not as white as like an Avonite bright white or a Korean designer white. It's definitely a little bit duller than those. So I've got a glacier adhesive and that's how we're gonna pull this up. So if this was my material and it came in, I'm gonna take my glacier adhesive that I got, I'm gonna go through the prep cycle just like we've done in other videos, and I'm just gonna glue this seam up. And the main thing is to make sure that, hey, this adhesive matches the material that I've got. And I'm checking before I glue up the whole job. So I'm gonna kind of go through the prep sequence with you guys again. Basically, we take off the tip that this cartridge is used. You can see the plunger's almost all the way down in. Fabricator left their tip back on, just chopped it so they could keep it in storage. I'm checking these guys, make sure there's no plugs in either of those holes there. I'm gonna burp it out to balance the pistons. I can see that the adhesive's coming out. There is no catalyst coming out. So I gotta double check and figure out why the catalyst is not coming out. Okay, pistons balanced. Now I've got catalyst coming out. So the pistons are balanced in the cartridge. We're good to go there. I'm gonna throw on another tip, put that guy in, put the retaining ring on, and then I'm gonna bleed this out. I'm just gonna get it and bleed out an inch or two through the tube, make sure that it's all mixing really good, and now we are good to go. So, doesn't matter if you've got guys in the shop, whether they're pulling a real seam for the actual job or a test thing. My thing is you do the right process every single time. You don't take shortcuts. What you do in practice is what you're gonna end up doing when it really counts. So don't skip any steps ever. Get in a habit, burp the adhesive, bleed it through the tip, then clean everything with alcohol, which I've already done, wipe it all down, make sure there's no dirt, and then go to town. So I can't emphasize that enough, is how you practice is how it's going to be in real life, and you wanna make sure that it's just secondhand to you and natural when you do it, right? I mean, I really haven't fabricated a top in probably 4 or 5 years, and I've done this so many times, it's still second nature because that's the process you go through every time. So we're gonna glue up this test piece. First thing I'm gonna do is put a little bit of adhesive here on it. I'm gonna smear it and just make sure, hey, yeah, when I feather it out and I blend it in, I almost can't see where the adhesive is and where the countertop is. Like, it feathers in perfect. So glacier white is a really good match for this. So obviously I've got a tripod holding the camera. I'll show you this here in just a second, but now we're gonna put some adhesive down this seam and glue it up. Looks good from what I rubbed on the corner. when I'm gluing up my seam, I come down one side, I put a bead of adhesive on one side, and then I put a bead of adhesive on the other side. So it comes down both sides there. So the reason I put the adhesive down both sides is that way if there was any pulsing or we had an air pocket anywhere, I'm gonna get catalyst down both sides. Now, if you look here, I'll show this to you. We're using the no drip, the Pro here. So that adhesive is staying right where I put it. It's on a flat plane. I mean, I can shake it. That adhesive is staying right where we put it, and it is not going to run all the way down and drip into cabinets if there were cabinets there. So here, if you ever have to do a test seam, I've got some packaging tape down here. I'm putting the seam right on the packaging tape, and I just kind of push it together there. You can see this, the adhesive is pushing through the top, and it's squeezing out the sides there. Let me put my gun here to the side. I'm gonna take a couple of bar clamps, just put a couple bar clamps on here to apply some pressure so that the guy clamps together. I'll take another bar clamp over here. Perfect, and that's all there is to it. So basically you're just gonna have your guys in the shop glue up a test piece, make sure that the adhesive is good, it's a good color match before you get started. That way you know everything is dialed in before you get started and actually start potentially what could be a mistake on a very expensive project, right? So this only takes a few seconds. Cut off a little scrap piece, make sure it works, make sure everything's dialed in, and then you guys are good to go. But like I said, even though this is a scrap piece and just a test piece, burp your cartridge, get the pistons balanced. Put on the nipple, bleed everything through the tip to make sure it's good to go. One pass on one side, one pass on the other side, making sure you've got good coverage, put them together and go. Just because it's a scrap piece doesn't mean you should skip any steps, right? So when the stakes are high, you're gonna do what your muscle memory tells you. So like I say, have your new guys in the shop. This is a great way for them just to get used to pulling seams and confident. But yes, definitely spread the adhesive on it, make sure it's a color match, and then pull a seam to make sure everything is dialed in. Like I say, if you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to shoot us an email, give us a call. We love helping you guys and answer any questions you have. Talk to you soon.